I thought it was a good story. It's more difficult to argue for like, oh, I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it. I really liked it. Oh.
Yeah. Anyway.
You know what? I'll do this live. I don't care.
You, the audience, will never know what.
Well, I mean, I'll say it, but whatever.
Yeah.
What's up to all our sidekicks and henchmen out there in the Geek Nation? You're listening to / watching the Spoiler Alert weekly comic book discussion show podcast live on YouTube and also Facebook. And I'm your host, Johnny Destructo. With me this week is
Noel.
And also,
yo, what's up? Holla at your boy. This is Len, aka the Bat Triple.
And then,
hey, it's Brian Lieb.
Hey, it's Brian Lieb.
Hey.
Let's see. We are behind schedule by about 10 minutes, and I forgot to bring up the letters.
Do we have
letters?
Yeah, we do have a letter.
Christopher St. Saucy says, "Good. What's up?
Hey.
Hi.
How do I find them now? Oh, this app.
Have we stopped doing the song? I was about to like start the song.
Yeah, because I hate it so much that I've just skipped it.
Oh.
Well, I have it up. Would you like me to read it?
The song?
JD?
I have the lyrics to the song up if you guys want to, if you don't remember.
Let's do like a spoken word.
Ahead, Noel. I'm sorry, Len. Go ahead, Len. What's the email?
It is from the Home Dad Abroad.
Oh.
And it says, mired in the muck of pre-Vertigo spoilage. Oh, my invigorated lovelies. How fantastic to hear that Jados finally caved into my years of oh-so-subtle promptings and more often heavy-handed insisting that he, as an horror fan, and more specifically a horror comics fan, delve into the Alan Moore saga of the Swamp Thing. Say what you will, and most say much more than that about Alan Moore as a human / witch / asshole / lunatic. There's no denying his skills as a storyteller. Unfortunately, as has been the case through all of human history, to enjoy and appreciate art, one must separate the art from the artist. Most artists are colossal jerks. And I am ecstatic to hear that you all enjoyed it. As for the discussion about if you could have read it in single issues back in the day, when taking into account the level of most of his contemporary comic works, Swamp Thing issues, once more took over, were compelling and complete single-issue stories, even when they were continuing plots. Waiting for the trade is not as satisfying when these single-issue stories all connected to a larger novel that spans across all of his entire 45-issue run, plus annuals, in a storyline that wraps up neat and complete, beginning, middle, and end, unless that trade is the size of a phone book. Remember those? Swamp Thing, Hellblazer, and Sandman represented a resurgence of the weirder supernatural side of DC. Their tackling of edgier, more grown-up themes and less traditional art styles led directly to the creation of Vertigo. Don't forget, all three titles started out with the DC bullet in the corner, which is why in the early parts of their runs, or their whole run for Moore and Rick Veitch's Swamp Thing, there were many cross paths with the DCU proper, intricately in the case of Moore. Yes, the first several issues of Sandman are a slog and can be skipped if the act of reading picture books is that taxing for you. However, taking inspiration from the above, Gaiman's Sandman is one complete story told initially in single-issue stories, then in arcs, and every element of those first several issues play throughout the run and wrap up purposefully by the conclusion. By the end, you'll be satisfied that you read every issue. Okay, I'll assume that you've listened to me lecture all the way to here, so as a reward, I'll contribute to your show, or at least play along. I would like to request for the once a month book club the first long form storyline but second volume phone book, hey, callback, of Cerebus the Aardvark, Volume 2, High Society. It's worth it. And no, it has no relationship to the porn magazine, the Home Dad Abroad. P.S. JD.
Yes, that's me.
I've reattached, just for you, an image from the Swamp Thing letter pages of a cute little letter concerning the introduction of John Constantine. I sent it
Oh,
to you ages ago, but I will not be ignored. So it is attached below for your casual absorption later.
and he actually like edited out the other letter. Be like, nah, don't read this one.
So it's easier for you to follow. He's worried.
Yeah.
He's worried.
Now wait, do I read the highlighted one or the not highlighted one?
Oh,
I don't know.
Please send
Hey,
it
wait.
in again in a more clear fashion.
It didn't come with directions. He's so intricate about everything else.
I know. Weird.
There's like so much to unpack in that. Does anybody want to go first?
You.
Yeah, you do.
I don't think I need to separate the artist from the art, personally. But the thing about Alan Moore is that he's a cantankerous, but he wasn't like a pedophile or murderer but like those are the things that I could separate, that I willfully and will separate the artist from the art. I don't give a shit how great it was. If you were a horrific person in life, then I can't make the mental leap to just enjoy your stuff. Because it's not connected, because I do believe that art is intrinsically connected to the artist, period. But I never hated Alan Moore. I just think he's a curmudgeon. Like that's not a crime.
Yeah.
Unless he gave me a wedgie at a con and I hate him as a person, I probably still would read it because it's like he's such a dick, but it's good. Like it's fine.
I think Home Dad Abroad was comparing him to other sort of garden variety dicks and jerks and curmudgeons.
But like who?
And
Is there somebody that you guys like?
Rob Liefeld?
There you go. Yeah, he's a bit of a shit, but his stuff's not that great though.
That's true. I don't have to separate it because it's all equal.
I mean, it's not like he's a master of literature that you have to like you have to overcome his attitude.
Orson Scott Card.
Orson Scott Card.
He hates gay people. Like I do think
sorry.
that's
I messed up I said the wrong thing. That's someone I can't separate, so I don't read it. I'm sorry. My bad. See, I need directions for how to answer questions. Home Dad Abroad needs to be here to tell me how to answer questions.
We were talking earlier, last week, I think, just amongst ourselves about where is that line drawn? If you go through history, before a certain point, a lot of people that did really great art had horrible views about that we would consider horrible now. And, so it's like, where is it? JD, I think you suggested like when they're no longer getting money from it, or benefiting from it, who knows? I don't know where that line is drawn or how to draw it.
Speaking of Rob Liefeld.
Yes.
I'm sorry, that was...
that he doesn't know how to draw lines either.
My bad.
There's a foot in the sand, and Rob Liefeld can't draw it.
Christopher St. Saucy Goodnight says, disagree. I love his art. Period. Rob Liefeld.
I can also see loving it. Right? It's so in like emblematic of a particular era, and it like the anatomy is way off. But when you're reading along and if you're into it, you don't notice things like that. Necessarily. So
it is emblematic of an era, and that's why it's wildly dated, and I don't like it.
That happens when like no matter how good you are or not good you are, if you like when you look at like artists that were very popular in a particular time, it's like it's not necessarily any worse, but it seems old now.
Yeah, but the difference with Rob Liefeld is that when you're looking at it in that era, especially depending on your age, when you're looking at it, you're looking at it through rose-tinted glasses. So you're looking at it and you're seeing all the wild lines and etchings and all that stuff. And when you return to it older, a little bit more seasoned, you look at it and it takes you back to an era. But then you look at the art itself and you're like, oh man, this is garbage. That's why Jim Lee's art, which definitely puts your mind back into a time, it still stands up. Because say what I want about him as a storyteller, his art is killer. The man can draw.
Yeah, and the opposite kind of happens with early stuff like Steve Kirby and
Jack Kirby?
sorry, Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. It seems so simple, but older, you go back and look at it, and it's so incredibly complex how they were able to accomplish so much with so little line work. So it's almost like the opposite. It's like when you're younger, you don't necessarily appreciate it, whereas now that you're older, you do. Vice versa with Rob Liefeld or something like that, where you see it when you're younger, you're like, this is so fucking extreme. And then now it's like, oh, that's
This
like
is so fucking horrible.
there's so many pouches and lines and cross hatching. I just don't like
I don't. We've talked about Rob Liefeld ad nauseum. All I have to say is that even at the time, it wasn't great. And my problem with it is that it has not grown. You will see a drawing by him this week, and it will look exactly like a drawing by him 30 years ago. So, Max
Well,
said,
let me ask you. Wait a minute. Just real quick, just off of that. Do you not feel this? Same thing about Jim Lee's art?
oh, no. If you look at old Jim Lee art and then look at now Jim Lee art, very different things. Now, they're aesthetically similar. You still have all of the cross hatching and the overly muscled characters and everything, but
Right.
his drafting has gotten 10 times better.
Okay.
He just by somehow, I don't understand it. Just by drawing a lot, you get better. That's just how drawing works. That's
Well,
how
that's
literally
true, right.
anything works. Rob Liefeld is some sort of strange anomaly where nothing changes. How do you draw that? He's prolific. He draws a lot, and it never jumps to another level. It's always the same level, and I don't understand it.
he's the master of mediocrity.
Yeah.
He plateaued and then just like keeps riding it hard.
Yeah, but anyway, Max says, good morning, gents. And then Christopher Goodnight says, are you not doing Gutter Talk anymore?
Stay tuned. We'll make an announcement about that at the end of the show.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, he had mentioned something about Sandman and Lucifer, and I found so I read Lucifer as it came out from like I forget where I picked it up, like issue 9 or something, but issue by issue, and and I loved it as you know. But I lent it to a friend of mine who also loved it, and I almost felt like it was a different experience lending him these because I was giving him, the like stacks of issues, and just like a trade would be, lending a trade. But I had just found a unique, in my experience, view into the difference between issue and trade. In that
you guys. So I had read Swamp. Home Data Broad mentions the experience of in issues versus trades, especially for something that's older. I would read it in issues if it was coming out now because I read it over a longer period of time and slower than you guys did. For this round. Like you mainlined those first 7 issues for the show. I read it late last year, and I literally did read an issue a night. And it was because it's very intricate and it's very nice and it just flowed really well. So I did read it in issues, and I will continue to finish it that way. We're not like streamlining 4 or 5 issues a night or more because it's just so intricate. It's just really, really beautiful. So I would have read that in issues, and there is a case for it. This did work better.
There's something about the weight,
very intricate chunks. Yeah.
Let's move on to this week's books. Did we have another email that I missed?
That was the only email that I saw.
Oh, shoot. Let me look. Hold on.
There's another email. Do you want us to vamp? I got a topic.
Mired in the muck of pre-Optima. Oh, we got it. Okay, good.
You should have just went,
That's it.
Noel. You should have just went.
Hide now show. Oh my God, it's All America Comics #1, written by Joe Casey with art by Dustin Nguyen. Let's see, what does Diamond have to say about it? I'll tell you. Thank you so much for asking. Her last name is Vasquez. Her first name says it all. And when confronted with the hidden secret of the universe, you won't believe the cosmic truth she uncovers. Brought to you by the Wildcats version 3.0 team of Joe Casey and Dustin Nguyen, reunited for the first time in 15 years. So the thing that I was really interested about is this is a story about a Latina girl who is able to travel through dimensions. Her name is America. And there is another character like that, literally, for Marvel Comics, co-created by Joe Casey. So it seems like, I don't want to speak for Joe Casey, but the gist I'm picking up is that he co-created America Chavez for Marvel, and then decided maybe it was taken away from him, or maybe he wasn't allowed to do what he wanted. So now he's doing something he wants to do with the character without changing anything about the character. You've also got a Doctor Doom fill in here. You've got
you got Avengers.
The Avengers.
the entire Avengers. Yeah.
Even
So-
the Jane Foster version of Thor, not just Thor.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And it's made mention too, like you're not the original.
Yeah. So
Right.
it's literally just the names have been changed to protect the innocent. Like
Yeah.
that's all they've done. This is the Unsolved Mysteries reenactment version of a superhero character. What did you guys think of it, Len?
I enjoyed it a lot. I really did. I thought it was, like I like the whole conceit of her talking in almost like Instagram posts, which was kind of cool with all the hashtags. I think there was a little bit of a moment when it got maybe a little overdone, but for the most part, okay, a little bit. But I rode with it. You know what I mean? I thought it was fun. I thought it was him trying to like you said, take back control of his character, and maybe try to work it into a way and that he can do what he wants with the character, as opposed to it being co-opted into the Marvel universe, and then can kind of like get lost in the sauce, which is what I think unfortunately had happened a little bit. So I was with it. I thought the art was like just spot on, just brought me into it. I thought it was innovative. I thought it was brave. I thought it was courageous. I thought the colors worked out everything. I love when she like gets trapped in between dimensions. I like that it took its time with it and actually spread that out over across pages and stuff. I liked the character. She sounded for the most part real. And I even liked her little conversation with because Dr. Doom was speaking for a lot of he was speaking for a lot of people, talking to millennials. I was like, I kind of like this Dr. Doom. I kind of wish I was. It's what was it? Emperor Dowd or something like that.
Imperador Dowd, yeah.
An Imperator Dowd. I was like, he's kind of cool. They almost had like a relationship like Dr. Doom has with Valeria in the Fantastic Four. So that kind of reminded me of that. I liked it. I liked everything. It was cool.
That was cool.
Yeah. Pigs. She's literally like spinning the whole 2-page spread. It's great.
I didn't love it, but I loved what it could be. So I like the idea of I guess he's if he is trying to reclaim his own intellectual property, doing it as almost like a pastiche or a parody or something like that. Like we've seen books like this before that will take the idea of that's already like popular and do something completely different with it. Something not unlike Invincible. It could be something like the End League. It could be like taking these well-known kind of caricatures and then doing something different with it, except it's the only thing that makes it super weird is that it's a very specific caricature that's not that crazy popular, just kind of popular. So it feels kind of weird, like, all right, cool. And the hashtaggy talk, I was over it halfway through, and then I was okay with it again, because I don't know if you guys have had conversations with 13 or 14-year-olds recently. That is how you get after a bit. Like, it's just like, okay, what are you trying to say? Like, use your words, or what does that mean? Like, it just kind of goes up and down like that. So I was like, all right, I guess it's accurate. It doesn't read well, but I get what he's trying to do.
I thought it was a little heavy-handed. I was very excited to read this just from curiosity's sake only, just because my curiosity was piqued, and of all the characters to do a pastiche of, I thought, oh, why Miss America Chavez is a character I enjoy in the books, in the Marvel books. And so when I read about it, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. He was a co-creator and blah, blah, blah. But boy, is this heavy-handed and a little frustrating to read. I think the hashtags do go a bit too far. I think the hashtags would have been better off as like bookends If she's writing a post at the beginning and she's writing a post at the end, great. The entire book is laden with hashtags. And then not only that, her confrontation with Imperator Dowd, not Doctor Doom, is she shows up at not Latveria, Volgavia, and it is there to confront him, right? She's knocking all his Doom bots around, or Dowd bots, I guess. And then he shows up and he's like, "You're not welcome here." And she's like, "Oh yeah, well, I guess I'll go then. Bye." And it's like that was the scene. It was she shows up, she's punching Doom bots. He's like, "You're not welcome here." And she's like, "All right, well, I guess I'll leave." She punches the big robot and screams, "Kaboom, Queen," spelled Kween. And it just sounds like the scene in what was the name of that show? Now it's a very popular GIF where Steve Buscemi shows up in a high school holding a skateboard, being like, "What's up, fellow teens? Hey, other children!" Like that's what the whole book felt like a 40, 50-year-old guy showing up and being like, "How does it go, youngsters? I am hip like you." And it's just, I couldn't wait to close the book. Now, the one thing that I thought was going to be interesting was she travels through dimensions. And I thought, oh, all right. So maybe the idea is that it's Miss America Chavez. She's able to travel through dimensions, but she goes to the real world where we exist, where we are reading this book. And that's what it looks like it's setting up because there are literal comic panels that she's outside of. And I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. Wouldn't that be cool? It's like Gwenpool.
Right.
But outside of the Marvel universe. And maybe she's going to show up and hang out with us. Kind of like, what was the book, that Image book? I think Brian mentioned it earlier before we started recording. Where Thor basically comes to the real world where he is a comic book character. What? Olympia. Yeah. So, and then she shows up back in her own world, and then some not John Constantine, or I'm sorry, not Constantine, not what is that? The son of the devil.
Hellstrom.
Oh, Hellstrom.
Oh, not Hellstrom shows up, and I went, I don't care about this.
Yeah, I wondered who that was.
Yeah, at first I thought Constantine, and I was like, oh, it looks more like Hellstrom. He's got the literal pentagram on his chest and the spiky hair.
Yeah.
So
I would.
Sorry, what?
No, go ahead.
That aspect of it, like, weighted me down. So I started being interested in this book. I really liked when she broke through whatever part of her travel stream she broke through, and the whole, like, she is this large, blue, cool-looking being, and also the being in front of her eye, and like all of that. I was like, oh, all right. I didn't realize that America Chavez even was this kind of character. So I was that, and then I got interested. But the other stuff, I'm really a fan of, like, pastiche or homage, or just like using the archetype. And I love Astro City. It's one of my all-time favorites. These didn't feel like homages. They felt like the characters, but I'm not allowed to call them Captain America and whatever. And, like, I wondered, like, legally, the Thor thing, like, picking up the hammer is not part of the myth. That's Marvel. Could Marvel be like, yo, no, this is ours, It won't. But I just thought it was so close, That I felt was weird. But I'd check it out. Her being the same, I think, is fine. He clearly just wanted to do his character.
Yeah.
The Spanish in it, to me, sounded stilted. I don't know. But I went on and I found, like, what is Joe Casey's background? And there wasn't really a lot of information there. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not familiar with those speech patterns, like, day to day, so who knows? And yet, it seemed like she beat Imperator Dowd, and then just, like, she seemed to have won. Like, not just a standstill. But.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna like mention it, but the Kapow Queen thing happens before their full-on conversation, and he pretty much says, "You're arrogant. You have no authority. You do something. It's not gonna like it." It's a conversation that she loses and then leaves. It's not just like a Fuck you, big
Like, peace out. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But-
he gives us food for thought.
I guess that's all right.
I didn't love this, but I'm intrigued enough to figure out what he's trying to do, what Joe Casey's trying to do,
Yeah.
to where I would read whatever comes next. Now, this was solicited as a one shot, literally says one shot. So I don't know what the fuck is next. Is it a series of one shots? Is it like 3 years from now we're gonna get a second issue? I don't know, but I am relatively intrigued. If he's going to be as bold as to reclaim a character that's his, I want to know what the hell he's doing about it. I think that's interesting.
I'm
Maybe
interested
he
enough that I will pay attention to what you say about it next time. Like you follow it and then report back.
Maybe he pitches it as a one shot just so to make sure it clears the legal hurdles.
See what happens.
Maybe. Let's see if they'll let me get away with this.
Clearly a cliffhanger, but all right.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Billionaire Island #2 by Mark Russell and Steve Pugh. Pugh. I don't know.
Pew. It's pew.
And like an action movie come to life, Trent storms onto Billionaire Island in search of answers, and he's willing to get them any way he can. Meanwhile, Shelley is after answers of her own. But will she regret getting them? The infiltration of Billionaire Island is on. I didn't read it. Someone go. Who read it? Brian.
It was on. The infiltration of Billionaire Island was on in this, and this one dude infiltrates, and it was cool. It's been a long time since the last issue came out. You know, like with everything, but it's just like the first issue. It's very on the nose in a way that is very aware that it's on the nose, and is like reveling and like, you know, like noses on a bed instead of money. You know?
I think that metaphor broke, but I still love it.
Yeah.
Like if you had tons and tons of severed noses, and you were rolling in the severed noses as though you're only on them.
All over.
That's what this book is like.
Which is why I didn't bother reading it, because I read the first one and I had that thought and I went, nah, but not that specific thought, Brian, to be honest. But
Like
you've
a serial
encapsulated.
killer rolling noses.
Yeah, so, but I thought it was fun. You know, the caricatures were fun. There were some little interesting in, like the Alien versus Predator movie.
Yeah,
That was fun. Yeah.
That was cool. I didn't see it coming at all. For the people, you know, who haven't read it, there's a guy who is an illegal alien, and then there's a guy who is a sexual predator. And the illegal alien, since he can't turn to the police, takes it upon himself to fight the predator. And then they hit you with it's Alien versus Predator.
The
That's
names
pretty
of
funny.
the names of the actors, because it's clearly Steven Seagal and Louis C.K.
Oh, I didn't catch the actor references.
Yeah, the actors' names though are like Steven Seagal and Louis C.K. Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
Another nose. All right.
Another note.
Steven Seagal wishes he was that muscular though.
I mean, that dude was ripped.
but it does align with him, like probably
Yeah.
trying to play Mexican. But regardless, I liked that part of it. I liked in so much as in this Billionaire Island, they have their own movie studio of disgraced, shunned actors and producers, and
Cancel.
so like. Yeah, if you think about all these like affluent people that are shunned from normal society because they're awful, where they would go and they would just do what they normally do. So there's a whole infrastructure, there's a whole entertainment center, system. There's a I thought that's like taking an idea and then like taking it to its foregone conclusion of like how this society would respond. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I liked it for the most part. I mean, there's something about the art that is well done, but the eyes kind of like look a little dead to me, or like all over the place at times. So that kind of takes me out of it a little bit. And like to you, what you said, B, the first issue came out so long ago. I found myself trying to like, oh yeah, all right, I think I remember where we are. Oh yeah, that's right. These people are caught like in this like behind this door type of thing. So you kind of like remembering where you were, but for the most part, it's It's dumb, stupid fun. I know, like Noel's pointing out, is making commentary on a whole bunch of stuff, and maybe I'll care. I really don't. I'm just in there for just the stupidity of it. I don't know, so it's fun enough. I feel like I grade most of these books on what I buy to trade. I don't know if I would buy the trade of this.
Mhm.
If somebody gave it to me, I'd be like, all right, cool. I read that. It's kind of cool, but I don't know if I would buy the trade of it. But it's fun enough. I wouldn't hate you if I saw it on your shelf.
Is it so I read a lot of Mark Russell, and I think that he's very prescient with a lot of his stories, like intentionally,
Right.
obviously, because it's a bed full
Right.
of noses. But he doesn't seem to do it to try and change your mind or educate you. He does it as a tool for the joke. So if you're coming at this, or a lot of his stories as, oh, changed my life, it's not his intention, and it's not really what's going to do it. It's more along the lines of, are you seeing what I'm putting down? Here's the joke about it. And then he keeps moving. So, I mean, it does. If it's done wrong, it comes off as heavy-handed. If it's done right, it comes off as like really smart. This is probably the least effective of it that I've read, but it's not terrible. So like something like Wonder Twins was just spectacular because it was like all background jokes, and the foreground was something very simple, just like with Flintstones too. All background jokes, and the foreground was very like simple. But something like this, just all foreground, it's hard. Like it's not as accessible. It's a little too, I don't know, edgy.
Well, and knows by any other name. I mean,
yeah,
is on a bed that he's rolling in
exactly.
because Brian's creepy.
No matter what you call it.
Hey, speaking about aliens versus predators, like, did you read earlier this week that Marvel and I guess their overlords did now have the license to Aliens and the Predators?
oh my God, I don't care.
Aw.
I don't read Alien or Predator comics, so I mean,
I did.
just by I'm sorry, no, but just the way I didn't like Conan before, but then Marvel got the Conan license and started and put Jason Aaron on it. Jason Aaron made me go, oh, maybe I'll try out this Conan fella. So it's not really the Predator or the Alien; it's who Marvel is going to put on those books for the first 3 issues that's going to make me check it out.
I felt the same way about Star Wars. I've never read Star Wars comics. I don't give a shit. Like,
True.
But the creative teams they put on it and then kept putting on it, I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. So that's the only reason why I'm excited, because Marvel has money to throw top talent at it, and they wouldn't have made such a splash if they didn't at least intend on that. So my question is, we know Alien and Predator are great. Who would you put on the book?
Ooh, that's a good
Who would you
question.
want to see on the book? Because
I
got
think
like
I already
10
answered this
people.
question because you posited it on Facebook, and I think I
did.
said Tom Taylor and Stuart Immonen.
Stuart Immonen on everything, Tom Taylor on everything. I agree.
I like Tom Taylor. I don't know if I like Stewart on it.
I want James Stokoe on the Alien book. I want his crazy, intricate, everything in the panel gooiness on the H.R. Geiger designs.
What about Mike Mignola? How do you guys feel about that?
Ooh.
On which one? I would do a Predator. I don't know about Alien. Oh, I see. I would want him on Predator. It's all stocky and shadows.
All right.
Oh, see,
And
I would
then-
want him on Alien. Cause I see his alien being real creepy, man.
I want somebody that's super intricate on Alien. So like even Daniel Warren Johnson. I
No,
want to see
no, I-
every gooey, sinewy piece
No,
of the
I would
design.
say Alien doesn't seem right for Daniel Warren Johnson, or DWJ as he likes me to call him.
D-dubs.
D-dubs. Yeah, D-dubs. I would put on Alien because that is way more over the top, crazy action.
Yeah, I put him on Alien.
Did you
No,
mean
I,
to say
I meant Predator. Predator is
Oh.
the action movie.
Yeah,
Alien
I'm about
is
to
the
say
horror movie.
Aliens is straight horror.
Okay, writers.
Hmm.
I mean, Jason Aaron, everything. Tom Taylor, everything.
I would say Brian Michael Bendis, so I could hear an alien say,
Oi.
Oi,
"Oi,
oi,
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 hey."
oi, with the humans.
Or Brian Michael Bendis on everything, so half the internet freaks out for no reason.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't.
3 issues, as you said. So
I wouldn't mind seeing. I wouldn't mind seeing. I don't know what Brian K. Vaughan could do with that.
Oof.
With either
I would
of
like
them,
that.
actually.
Yeah, I mean,
like it.
sure. I'm into that.
Yeah, there's so many. You know who I don't necessarily want. I guess I don't want like the regulars that are doing all these licensed property books. Like Charles Soule is pretty much on every licensed property book. I don't want that. Like I want something purely or popular comics and move it over here to see what they can do. You know, like not the stable of writers that are doing all the kind of IP books. If that makes sense.
I know. I don't want Mark Bagley. That's all.
Yeah, I don't want Mark Bagley. I don't, I don't want Charles Soule.
Nick
I don't
Cage
know.
do a great job.
I think Kyle Hotz, if Kyle Hotz would put the amount of work in that I've seen in his commissions recently on Instagram, I think he would be great for Alien or Predator.
Mark Russell and Steve Pugh. It's a joke. It was a joke. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, did you finish Second Coming by?
I did.
How was it?
I really, really liked it. Like, it all kind of crescendos in one lesson, and it's pretty interesting.
Nice.
Like Jesus does a thing, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah.
JD's ready to move on. He's changed the scroll.
Devil's Highway #1 by Ben Percy and Brent Schoonover. Ben Percy and Brent Schoonover present a nerve-wracking thriller examining murder in the dark underbelly of America's heartland. A young woman with a dark family secret embarks on a quest to hunt down the serial killer that brutally murdered her father, only to discover he is just one piece of a national network of evil that snakes across the country and hides in plain sight. To catch the devil, she must first embrace the darkness within. Well, this description was way more interesting than the book. What did you guys think, Noel?
I liked it. I thought it had I liked the main character. She has got like Elizabeth Salander kind of vibe to her. I like the general conceit. I like the moodiness of the book. I like the art. There's some really weird little choices that I dug, like explicitly when she visits the police station. There's one cop with 3 scratches on his face, and I don't know why.
Oh, she tells you.
Does she tell me?
Yep, she tells you. She shows up and
Oh,
she says, what did she say? Oh, nobody's here but us. You remember that guy from Stevens Point, the one who grabbed my ass at the homecoming game? They wired his jaw shut for a year, and it shows that he has a scratch on his chin or on his jaw because he's the one who had his jaw shut for a year.
what? I didn't read it that way.
Yep. And how's that wrist of yours, Clay? He had also done something to her that she didn't like, and so she broke his wrist. I don't know if that's the reason he's missing 2 fingers. We don't get that. But this character, you know, some friends and I used to watch horror movies and cult movies a lot growing up. And there was always that character that he would show up and he would be the gruff, grizzled, 45-year-old, 50-year-old detective who's too old for this shit. 40 years I've been on the job. And we would just sort of make fun of that character because he was such a ridiculous pastiche that showed up in everything. And this feels like that to me. This character is just like, she's the what's the word I'm looking for? The lone gun, the one who doesn't play by the rules. She shows up and she intimidates to get what she wants. And it just, this book felt like a cartoon.
Yeah. Also, too, I don't think that Wired Jaw is the same guy. Maybe the wrist, but
gingerly touching his scratches on.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, you wired that guy's jaw shut, but not touching his own 3 weird claw marks,
which he got because some woman scratched his face.
That's the thing that I was actually getting at. The fact that these are like the subtle or not so subtle visual cues that these are not great people.
Right. She's saying these specific things to them, and they are reacting to it because she did it to them.
In third person?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's weird.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't read it that way. I didn't read her as the grizzled old,
Well, not old. She's like a teenager. I think she's a teenager, even though she's drawn 30.
No,
she's like 25.
Okay. I think she's in her 20s, maybe early 30s. Well, I didn't. what I like. No, I like this. I liked it a lot. I liked the art. I loved a lot of it was, uh they didn't have to show you the violence. It was implied, and then you just you skip a beat, and then the dude is all trussed up on the floor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as as hard as she was, because and the hard as chick has become like a trope, but as hard as she was, I felt she came across as believably hard ass without having to flex. You just felt it in the look, in the artwork. Yet she was still allowed to be human. Going to the place where her father was killed, laying in the chalk, in his chalk outline.
I like that bit. I like the laying in the
like-
chalk.
And you could see the sadness on her face, and then embracing her father when she goes to see him in the morgue. So she was still allowed to be human. Like the whole time I was reading this book, I was thinking about the book I think that we did last week about the tough ass chick who it gets tied up at the end, and then breaks out of the chair and everything like that.
Stabs him in the eye. That was like a murderer, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
Wasn't that Dead Body
Dead
Road?
Body Road. Yeah.
Yeah,
That one
really,
I believed
I
her.
really like that.
I don't believe her. This feels like
See,
a
wow.
character cosplaying as a tough character.
See, God, I believe this one's so much more than that one, man. I thought that one was just over the top, like just trying so hard to be this, like
I believe both.
Okay.
I just love this. I love the art. The art took me in the mood, put me in the mood there. I felt the characters felt real. I really enjoyed this. Reminded me of a very slept on show from Cinemax from a couple years ago called Banshee, that a lot of people didn't lock onto. Now, this doesn't have, Banshee is just wall to wall, just straight fisticuffs fighting, but the whole vibe of this really reminded me of that, and I enjoyed the hell out of this book. This was dope.
I really like the panel layout too for half the book. It's a lot of
Yeah.
9-panel grids and a lot of dialogueless scenes of her surveying, and also too they make the choice of cutting away when she's about to do something badass, almost just like you don't need to see it because it's not important.
Right.
Like she threatens a dude and then cut to he's tied up on the ground and she's looking through the computer. Like they very intentionally skip things to which I really enjoyed. I really do like. I liked the middle chunk of this where she's investigating. I really liked.
Felt like a detective. I liked it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Brian, did you read it?
No, I didn't. Did not get to Devil's Highway.
Yeah, that's another part of her detective work is the woman in the first scene comes up and puts her hands on the glass of the diner. And so this woman who is trying to track the killer goes outside, and the handprints are still there. And she places her hands so she's able to figure out, oh, okay, I guess a woman was in trouble and came up and put her hands on the glass, which also felt very just silly to me.
How did that feel silly?
It's a diner. You don't think there's more than one set of handprints on the glass?
I don't know if she necessarily she can definitely tell that it's a woman's because of the size of the handprints. And I don't necessarily know if she knows that person was coming up there for help, but you see it. And you think that maybe it's a clue, maybe it's nothing, but you take it in. That's what you do.
I think if the handprints, if the woman had blood on her hands and she was able to see the blood, but because it's cold and the warmth of the woman's hands created a pattern on the glass, I don't know. Just
and she only saw it because she was laying on the ground in the it was part of a bigger piece that didn't bother me.
And then that's not even the best part. This very same page, a couple panels later, she's walking from diner to the gas station across the street, and she finds in the snow a tooth, not a gold tooth, a white tooth. She finds in this a tooth, but it's also tooth size, by the way, I should say. It's a tooth-sized tooth sitting in the snow, and she finds it.
I mean,
I'm glad you guys liked it. It wasn't for me.
If it's on the top, it's just minutia. Like I couldn't find keys in the water if I find them in the water. Like
You
it's
can find the
it's not like-
shiny metal keys in the water. I mean, yeah.
well, no, I mean, if you think about it, like in murky sand, she wasn't looking for it. She saw it. That's all.
Right.
Yeah.
And she picked it up because you don't know. That's what she's there. They're trying to find out stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
So-
not like half the story was her looking for a missing tooth in the snow. It was on the top layer of the snow while she was walking to the other place and saw it. That's all.
Okay.
No, you had mentioned the panel grids. I just was paging through while you guys were looking. I don't think I've ever seen it done in this way, where you've got like, maybe just because you said they're all 9-panel grids, right? But then in the first 3 pages, it's like there's still complete 9-panel grids, but some of them are doubles. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's interesting the way that he plays with that, like still the same formula, but 2 and 3 breaking into each other. It's cool.
Oh, Brian, I'm surprised that you don't say that. That doesn't take you back to the days of Keith Geffen's 5-year later Legion, which were almost all 9-panel grids, and will often have that same type of
Really?
beat through it. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Len, the 5 year later is an egregious gap in my Legion. Like, I was pretty young when it was coming out, and it's always been something that kind of interested me, and I wanted to see it, but I never got back to it, and like trades and back issues weren't as easy to come by in those
Yeah,
days.
they're not in trades, unfortunately.
I think they're collecting it soon.
They keep teasing it, but last I heard, they pushed back the print.
They kicked it down the road.
I hope they do, because I'm holding on to these like 40-year-old comic books, and I really don't want to.
I think they're gonna do an omnibus sooner or later, just for that chunk though. Cause like
What's up next?
I don't know.
next?
What's
The
up next?
Goddamned, number 1, The Virgin Bride.
And the goddamn.
Written by Jason Aaron with art by R.M. Wera. They return to the stark and brutal world of the Goddamned for the long-awaited second chapter of their biblical noir epic. Genesis 6:4, the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. In the time before the great flood, the world of man is a place of wanton violence and unbridled depravity. But hidden high atop a mountain, there is a very different sort of world, one without men. Here, the holy sisters at a secret nunnery live in paradise, a new Eden, rearing their flock of orphaned girls to embrace their future as blessed brides of the sons of God. But when Shari and Jael, 2 girls on the cusp of flowering, uncover what it means to become a bride, they realize there's only one way to escape the bonds of matrimony. Run like hell! I love Jason Aaron. I love R.M. Wera. They are the team that brought us Scalped, which is one of my favorite crime noir stories. Might be a little problematic, but I still really enjoyed them. I will be honest. I was excited to read this. I didn't finish The Goddamned Volume 1. It was one of those things where I read the first 2 issues and I was like, oh, what a neat thing. It's just the Bible, but wicked bloody. And I thought it was kind of neat. It didn't grab me enough to keep me, but I was like, oh, great, it's coming back. I'm going to check this out. And I got about halfway through, and the art is gorgeous. The R.M. Wera, I wish he got more work. It's so gross, but solid. There's a fluidity and a texture to all of the inks that is just gorgeous. It can be a little off-putting at first, or at least it was to me when I first started reading Scalped. But man, all the bones are there. Everything feels gritty and disgusting, but beautiful at the same time. I just can't say enough about R.M. Wera's artwork. And I was interested in the story, but I had to stop reading when they started depicting underage girls completely naked. That's just I just couldn't bring myself to keep reading it. So I don't really know how the story shakes out. Which is a bummer. It's a bummer. I wanted to finish this book, and I just couldn't do it for, I guess, personal reasons. What did you guys think? Was it worth finishing? Let me ask that.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the next scene is a nightmare sequence that kind of sets up everything that happens after it too, which was very good. The scene you're talking about is deplorable and gross. As there's an attempt to make it tasteful, but tasteful in an awful way. Like, it's not exploitative at all. And it's these horrible people sizing up these girls, which is awful. Like, it's jarring, it's awful. I didn't enjoy reading it, but it's not exploitative. There's no other way to, like, and I found myself thinking about being back in grade school and actually having to read pieces of the Bible that are awful and gross. And they talk about these really uncomfortable, shitty things. And you're like, what the fuck? And that's what it felt like for a scene. I'm like, what the fuck? And I almost also stopped.
Yeah.
But then the next scene,
it reminded me of, like, almost when you hear the real stories, or you go back in history and look at, like, the real building blocks for some of your favorite fairy tales and stuff.
Yeah.
You find out that they really were like, ooh.
Like grim fairy tales and stuff.
Yeah, like, it's some harsh shit. And, like, and that's what this reminded me. The art drags you in, so you're like, oh my god, this is so evocative. Like, oh, what the fuck? You know, you're like, man, this is insane. And then, you know, you think about it, these girls and the sacrificing and everything like that. But, like, to Noel's point, it's a tale as old as time. It's not only it's biblical, but it's the same type of shit, just, you know, with a Hollywood sheen that has been in movies since the dawn of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I for the most part, it's not exploitative, like you said. It's you. I think I begrudgingly enjoyed it.
I think if I'm going to respectfully disagree that it's not exploitative. I always mess up that word. I feel like the reason I stopped reading it is not because of the scene and that these girls are being inspected like cattle. I think that's important to note, that maybe that's how children were treated back in the day. My problem is that there is very literally a scene where it's a medium shot, it's a little bit of a close up. It's a medium close up shot. The woman's arm is holding a staff, and she's in the foreground. And then slightly beyond her in the background, or the middle ground, is a young girl. And it is purposely drawn so that arm is not in the way of this naked girl. It could have a fraction. If you just took the Photoshop file and went click, click, left, left, the arm would be in the way of this naked girl's body. They purposely did not do that. Had they done that, it wouldn't have been a problem. It would have been, oh, okay, everything is respectfully, like in Marvel Comics, if MJ's getting out of the shower or whatever, the steam, like, Frank Cho will draw the steam so that you don't see the nipples or the breasts or anything. This very specifically does not do that, even though they could have.
Yeah.
With great ease. And that's the part where I went, fuck you. There's no reason for this at all. I understand if you want to set up the scene and how depraved it is, and how disgustingly they're treated. Great. I'm all for that. These things need to be talked about. But the minute you draw these things, I'm out. That was my problem. Not the fact that it existed. The fact that all they had to do was draw the arm a fraction of an inch to the left to hide these small children's bodies, and they did not do that. This is a very personal thing for me.
Yeah.
I have PTSD. I cannot truck with anything in dealing with underage children. It is a trigger for me. I don't usually talk about this, but I have had conversations with law enforcement and FBI trying to help track down a predator because I found evidence of one at a place that I worked. And I made the mistake of going into the phone and being like, oh, this must be one of the customers that I know. I will take a look at who the customer is so I can give them back their phone. And I found a crime scene in the phone. And it has not left me for one day in my brain. So these sorts of things upset me, and it's very personal. If you guys love the book, that's not on you guys. That's on me. I was very upset reading this, and I put the book down immediately.
There's the scene you're talking about. Like I had to remember what you're talking about. The scene the scene you're talking about is like hint of nipple, which you're right. Like that is like that's a bridge too far for what they're trying to depict. You know, like you see babies' butts and stuff, and it's not sexualized. But as soon as it gets to like hinting at nipple for a 13-year-old, it's like, all right, okay,
yeah,
a little much.
It's a bummer. I really was excited to read the book. I was like, oh, what a neat idea. I can't, and the art is so good, but just that one thing.
So to spoil it for you, it's the book itself essentially is sex trafficking for demons.
Oh,
Angel, actually.
well,
Well,
right.
oh yeah,
They're angels, right? Because I see earlier in the episode.
There's goblins.
No, those are the babies. I think those are the
offspring.
yeah.
Oh,
they're-
that's right. Nice. Yeah, it's essentially it's that fucking horrific. Which
Yeah.
it's sex trafficking virgins for an entity, and it's awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's
What
an
an interesting
book.
story to tell.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so close.
The way the book ends, it is possible that nothing like that will happen again. It may be.
I think it's very likely nothing like that will happen again. The way the book ends is so one girl is hiding her menstruation, the other one is about to get it, and the second one gets it at the very end as the cliffhanger. So they decide to run. So it's potentially a chase story that's really going to be set up. So
I'm a little surprised that they went back to the village at all. I thought they were out. I thought they were
after that night. Yeah.
But
I, you know what, I really did like the sequence right after that, the nightmare that she had. They kept referring to blossoming.
Yes, and then you see the blossoming in her nightmare.
Yeah, the nightmare of actual roses being thorned out of her skin. It is
It's so gross.
is incredibly gross, really, really creepy in a body horror kind of way, which made me too think of like the, you know, at that age going through puberty, the body horror of it, and
Exactly.
and especially if your only education of it are these horrific women.
Yeah.
oh,
So it was
maddening.
it was a very creepy, it was very unsettling, and because it was effective, I enjoyed reading it. Like air quotes, enjoyed reading it. Yeah, it was
funny.
very weird.
It also preys on another fear of mine. I have nightmares all the time of like mushrooms and stuff sprouting out of my forearms, and they're doing it here.
Now they're roses. You're welcome.
They're beautiful flowers. Yeah, it's very different.
Well,
But
this is
bloody.
definitely we have found the book that is not for JD.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm shaking.
Never.
So-
No, it's
Do not apologize.
Fine, dog. Don't apologize. This is fine.
Yeah. Like these are horrible things. Whether or not you feel it as a real thing depends on a lot of who you are and like background and Fighter, it's gross too. You know.
I didn't mean to bring the podcast down. I'm sorry.
No. This was when we first went live. It was like, look, if we want to skip this book, because I personally don't want to be in a position where I'm somehow arguing for child nudity in comics.
Right.
I mean, I don't feel like that was the point of the book, but it is a very jarring aspect of the book, and it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So, and when I say not exploitative, the purpose and the function of it is to repel.
Yeah.
Not to attract. So that's why it's not exploitative.
It's explicit also.
I think it might attract certain folks, though.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's. I thought it was an interesting hook. It's something that I've never really considered before. That we all know the Noah story, and the whole reason that there was a flood was that like everyone was really awful except, I guess, Noah and some of his family. So everyone else was destroyed, which is harsh. But there's a lot of biblical tales and not a lot dealing from before that. But I get the sense from the original series also, like that's his whole thing is he's like, everyone in this world is awful. And they're going to be destroyed for it. And he finds some interest in telling
Yeah,
Like
I haven't read the first series either. I have it over there. It's literally called Before the Flood.
right. Yeah.
So
Although
anyway,
I did some looking into the offspring, who in the biblical text are referred to as the great men of old. Like they're not these like demon children, which I thought was of interest.
It's funny that we were reading this and you know all the biblical references to it because Facebook has a way of being like very ironic. And Facebook reminded me today when I signed on of the comic strip that I was doing a couple of years ago, which was called Heaven Sent, which was about the illegitimate daughter of God and the fallen angel Lilith. So I was actually before we signed on, I was reading through like the first like 7 or 8 of those strips that I did, and I was like, it's like wow, this is like very prophetic considering that the book we read. And then too, I was like, I wasn't a bad little writer, was I? This is a fun little script.
That's awesome.
I might put this out there. Exactly, right? If I finish that final story, I might put like the book out or something.
I mean, people do that all the time now, right? They come back after years.
It's true.
Yeah.
I like it. It's all content. Just reshare it.
Amen.
All right, Brian, it's time for Thunder Rounds.
Thunder rounds.
What is a Thunder Round?
Oh, a Thunder Round is when one of us will talk about one comic for 60 seconds, and then you get cut off at the end of it. And JD prefers when we don't discuss it after that, but it happens every time.
Touché. That's perfect. Now, Noel, my friend, you're up first with Walking Dead, Negan Lives #1, written by Robert Kirkman and art by Charlie Adlard. Is there a little bit of preamble you want to give before getting into it?
This actually, you should.
Well, I'll tell you. Thanks for asking. I love Robert Kirkman as a retailer. I was very frustrated when he let me know, me personally, he called me on the phone. I was like, hey, this book you're going to get this week, it's the last issue of Walking Dead. You didn't know that, did you? You didn't order enough, did you, you piece of shit? And I went, no, Robert, you're correct. I did not. Thank you for making sure I didn't make money on this book. So he basically put out the end of Walking Dead as a surprise, even though retailers were ordering the next 2 issues, right? I ordered the next 2 issues of Walking Dead because he put out fake covers for fake Walking Dead issues, just so I would not know that the issue coming up was the last one. And while I was a little bit like, oh, I could have ordered an extra couple of issues knowing it was the last one, knowing people would be coming in the comic shops trying to get it, I was still went, you sly son of a bitch.
Didn't he do that?
You.
Didn't he do that with Die, Die, Die? Also, it's just like, oh, by the way, here's a new book.
He did the opposite thing, which is, here is a brand new book. You don't know it's coming. I'm going to send you a bunch of free issues. Here's the first issue for free, which is very cool. And then this one he did again. Negan Lives, because of COVID and everything that's going on. He felt like, wouldn't it be cool to just put out something unexpected? So Negan Lives is a one-shot, even though Walking Dead is completely finished, the comic book series. And I don't think, I'm not sure, I didn't check. I'm not sure if I got him for free, but he sent me the same amount of copies as I got the last issue of Walking Dead to make sure all of my subscribers would get them, which is very cool. So here we are, Walking Dead, Negan Lives, #1. Noel, 60 seconds on your clock. Go.
I read Walking Dead for the first like 100 issues, 75 to 100, and then just kind of fell off because the story wasn't going anywhere. But I would check in every anniversary, and I did read the last issue, and I found it fine. This specifically takes place after, I guess, issue 174, which is the last place you see Negan, and he doesn't die. He goes on and lives. And this is where he went, or at least the start of his little adventure. As long as you know who the character is, even if it's by television, you can jump into this. It is basically him alone, mourning his bat.
Lucille.
Mourning his bat. And then he gets kind of ambushed by another small group, and it creates, it incites an action for him. So like the start of his journey. So in the last issue of The Walking Dead, you saw a headstone.
Oh, end of round. Sorry.
It's good. I liked it.
Oh, good. I'll definitely read it once I get a chance. Action Figure Expert says, hello. What's up? What's going on? How you guys doing? Noel, how you doing?
I'm good. I slept so well.
Doing
How's
well.
your back?
It's all right. It's a little bit better than it was before, but I cannot. If I do anything or sit any way other than I have been, I feel like it wouldn't be. So we're in sort of a limbo phase where it's nice that it doesn't hurt all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Len, how you doing?
I have a hangover.
Oh, I was wondering. I knew you're down here. You're usually up here, but you're down here. I can feel it.
How was last night?
He has a hangover.
Cool.
So last night was great. Assuming. All right, who's up
Hey,
next?
JD,
Oh.
how are you doing?
Oh my God.
I didn't care to ask.
I'm still,
Actually,
I'm still a little shaking from how I was upset a second ago, but otherwise I'm great. Also, my back hurts as well. My wings, and I wonder, how I was wearing the back brace to keep my body straight. I wonder if I wore it for too long and my muscles are like, "What the hell are you doing? We're not supposed to be correct." And now my back is super sore.
Oh, JD, actually, I have just one more thing
Yeah.
that we like to talk about.
Okay.
And it's patreon.com.
Oh my God, patreon.com. Do you mean for the people who are listening to the show and want to help us out, they could go to patreon.com/Johnny Destructo. We actually got 2 new patrons this week. We got one for $1 and we got one for $20.
Ooh.
So the $20 tier, which this is the first one to sign up for it, haven't had to worry about it until now. The $20 tier is basically you get a commission from me every month.
For how long?
As long as you're a patron.
Wow.
It's pretty good deal.
So you get a commission from me every month. And I was going to put up like some options and then people could vote. And then whatever the vote wins, whatever the winning vote is, I draw that up and then everyone gets a copy of it. So this one person will get a commission every month. So that's pretty rad. So if anyone else wants to go help out, you can help out for as little as $1. The tier is, oops, your dollar fell in my pocket. You can help out the show that way. That would be lovely.
Cool.
So thank you for asking, Brian.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah. You're up.
Are you going to put all the links in? So people watching
I
this
always
later,
forget to do that. I should do that.
like actively doing this on the horn to do it. Yeah, put the links.
Brian's up with another Thunder round for the digital first from Beyond the Unknown from DC Comics by Dan Jurgens, Tom Snigowski, and Eric Gapster. Go.
So I didn't know this title existed, and I saw the title itself, and I was like, ooh, for me. And it turns out it's an anthology series. I think the sense of it is either out in space or in time. The first one is Kamandi, and I've never really known too much about Kamandi, but it's a cool story. He finds this robot butler who's waiting for his humans to come back. The humans are long gone, but he brings their skeletal remains back, and the butler is like satisfied. He's a simple AI kind of program, and and then Kamandi goes out and he's like, this is like the first thing that happened to him. The one I really liked, should have spent more time talking about, is the Legion of Superheroes, drawn and written by Dan Jurgens. It's very cool, classic, and it's a cool era of the Legion of Superheroes. It's a nice story. Sunboy and Wildfire have been captured. End of round. But it doesn't end with them captured. Everything works out. Don't worry, you guys.
Oh, woof.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I was nervous. Back to Noel for Firepower, the Free Comic Book Day #1 by Robert Kirkman and Chris Samnee. Go.
It is a Free Comic Book Day issue. I think it's like the first issue of Firepower. So this is a weird book in so much that it was released as an original OGN as a prelude issue, and this is the first issue for an ongoing. The art's gorgeous. The story is fun as hell. it is kind of like a play on Iron Fist if he also started a family 10 years later. And this issue doesn't make as much sense if you don't read the prelude. So I would highly suggest forking over the $10, get the OGN because it's gorgeous. Like the art is so effing gorgeous. And then read this free comic book day and then subscribe to it because this book is super fun and Chris Samnee is the best in the world. How many seconds I got left? 8, 7. Who's your favorite person? Go.
Ooh, that's a tough one. End of round.
Oh, yeah, the round's over. Oh, my answer would have startled and amazed you too. It's a shame we can't talk about it. Hawkeye Freefall number 6 by Matthew Rosenberg and Otto Schmidt on art. Bullseye wants to hurt Clint in any way he can, so he's playing dress up and taking the Archer's not so good name on a deadly tour of New York. Meanwhile, the Hood has had enough of Clint's games and decides to put an end to them once and for all. He puts a price on Clint's head so high that every villain, merc, and thug in the city is going to line up to take a shot. With everything falling apart, Clint will be forced to make some choices he can't take back. Will he find a way to get through this with clean hands, or will he be forced to return to his criminal ways? I really liked the beginning of this series. I was really into it. I liked the Matt Rosenberg dialogue. I thought the story was fun. The turnaround that Hawkeye was actually Ronin the whole time, I thought was kind of fun. Len disappeared. And
my head got really big, and I was like, oh, God.
But this last issue felt like 2 issues just sort of crammed into one. It felt like there were some time jumps and some things that weren't quite explained, but we thought they were supposed to be explained. It felt weird to me. The art was great, but yeah, this felt kind of disjointed. I read the last 2 issues. I almost said simultaneously. That's not how I read things. I read 4 and then 5, and yeah, I was still a little confused. Like I missed an issue. What did you guys think? No.
I mean, it was worse for me. I read 4, 5, and 6 at the same time on 3 different devices. And I was just with a foot and 2 hands, just like swiping pages. You're right. It was the back half of it was really truncated.
Yeah.
Like Bullseye shows up. Why did Hawkeye put on Bullseye's costume? Why did so many weird little choices were made and they felt very stupid.
Yeah.
There's a where's that thing where you know who does this all the time? Kirkman does this. It's like he fabricates conflict by having smart people do stupid things. And most of the time it's just not saying one thing to a person.
Right.
And because they don't do that, it becomes this big, intricate bullshit kind of thing. Because he just won't say, my bad, that was me. It started and I've been trying to fix it and it just gets worse. Mm-hmm. It becomes this giant, convoluted, weird, murdery thing. And they're making me try to. I know I get where they leave him. Like I actually kind of like where they leave him as shunned from the heroes and a bit of a misunderstood villain or anti-hero now. That's cool.
Yeah.
But it happens so. It just feels overly orchestrated. That's all. I liked the end point, but it just felt very heavily orchestrated to the point where it's just like this feels like engineering more than it is telling me a story.
Yeah.
It's all. I'm sorry, real quick, Big. The part when he puts on Bullseye's costume is so stupid. It makes absolutely no sense that he does that. Yeah. It just makes no sense. It makes no sense. And like you can say that Hawkeye is not the swiftest Avenger in the Quinjet. Okay, all right, but he's not. He's not. He is also somebody who has led the Avengers. Yeah. He is someone who Captain America every once in a while does call on for, like, what's your point of view on something. He is someone who is a trained fighter. He knows the angles, a deadly marksman. He's not a dummy. He's not. It makes absolutely no sense for him to put on Bullseye's costume. stupid.
Another wrinkle of that I hadn't even thought of is it is like one of his biggest goals in this comic to get people to think that he isn't Ronan, right? And isn't he? Oh no, I'm sorry. He has on Hawkeye's costume, right? Bullseye, or is he in Ronan's costume? I don't
He's in Ronan's costume. He's in Ronan's costume. So he goes to put on
right
the Bullseye one.
Why not wear the Hawkeye costume?
So Action Figure Hero mentions Hawkeye put on both costumes because Bullseye was pretending to be Hawkeye. No, he was pretending to be Ronan.
Yeah,
he wasn't pretending to be Hawkeye. He could have put on a Hawkeye costume.
Yeah, right. Wouldn't that like play right into his hands?
Yeah.
Well, the reason he does it, he says, Hawkeye says to Bullseye, I put on your suit because I didn't want people to know it was me who did what I'm about to do to you. So, it's been a while since I read the first couple of issues of this, but wasn't the problem that Ronan was killing people?
Or at least was making it seem as though he was killing people. Like, I don't.
No, Ronan was escalating the Hood, and the Hood was killing people to find Ronan.
Right.
Okay.
Unsurreptitiously just murdering whole floors of people. Yeah. So it was this thing where his actions were inadvertently causing. I mean, they were bad people. Usually it was like a whole floor of gangsters or something.
Yeah.
But it caused all of these murders. So it was like he at that point he was in too deep, or he felt he was in too deep. Meanwhile, he probably could just like at that point been like, I thought this was a good idea.
Whoops.
Yeah. And also it doesn't I don't know. His actions are not, as Night Nurse points out, so different from things that various other heroes have done. Yeah. And I think there is a lot of like, we are being told that Hawkeye is bad now, or he's doing things that aren't acceptable. But you don't really see that. You know, like him running a double thing as Ronan. I don't know. I also found it's like, in some ways, a well enough story told, but the path that it goes down, I was kind of like, Hawkeye just keeps being crappy to people, and like, why not let his friends in on this? And you know, and then it ends with him. I guess he's a villain now, but he doesn't know it yet. We'll see.
I really liked the turn. Like, I liked that he robbed the bank to pay Nefaria to get the hood off the hood. I thought that was. Like he hid the demon in the bag. Like that's a really good turn that I didn't see coming.
Yeah.
Just getting there was like it was a lot of orchestrated decisions just to serve the ending as opposed to it feeling organic.
Yeah.
Action Figure Expert says, no, I'm talking about years ago during the Dark Avengers. Remember Dark Avengers? So Bullseye was Hawkeye during Dark Avengers, says Christine. So it's a good night. So this is the playing off of the fact that when the Dark Avengers had taken over the roles for the regular Avengers, Bullseye was wearing Hawkeye's costume, pretending to be Hawkeye. So I think this was supposed to be a bit of turnabout.
Maybe
some like revenge. And also, Hawkeye he wasn't 100% sure that he wasn't going to murder Bullseye.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think some of the things that he's doing here is because he was an Avenger, or maybe still is an Avenger, I'm not sure. But the fact that he's friends with Captain America, the things that Hawkeye does probably reflects on the Avengers and on Captain America, and that's why he's done this Ronin thing. So, you know, to be a slightly different, darker hero without besmirching the Avengers. You know what I mean? Of like, Hawkeye was a bad guy. Look, he's being bad again. So that's why he does the Ronin bit. I was a little sad. I would like more. There's something about the Hood ever since Brian K. Vaughan created him with, I think, Kyle Hotz. I think the aforementioned Kyle Hotz. I've liked this character, and I liked what Bendis was doing when he leveled him up a little bit. And I really enjoyed the back and forth between these two characters. I think that's the strength of this series is the Red Hood and Hawkeye bits. And even in the first issue, when Hawkeye goes through so much trouble to beat the Hood, and then the Hood in the very next scene, just walking out of the courthouse being like, I got off. See ya. I liked their dynamic.
There's a lot of really great continuity Easter eggs in this as when it comes to Count Nefaria, too, because he's Madame Mask's father. And Parker does her dirty in the Avengers run. Like they're a team to be reckoned with, the Madame Mask and the Hood, almost half of the run, or the back half of the run, and he is shitty to her and like leaves her for dead. So Nefaria has he's very invested in fucking up, you know, the Hood's day.
I wish I
was
knew
like
all that.
Yeah, it's the whole back half of the New Avengers run with Bendis up till like issue 70. So like during Dark Reign, and then it ends right after Siege.
No, but I mean, I wish they had sort of mentioned that a little bit here.
Well, he does, like, it's a line. It's just
The line item. Yeah, about
Yeah.
about Nefaria.
Also, Christopher Goodnight. I like that a lot too. That is always fun.
Costume switching.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I just maybe this needed to be one more issue or something, but I was really enjoying it. But this last one just felt like it was just on fast
Oh, and
forward.
that kid died off screen.
Yeah,
That was
weird.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I
No.
meant. It felt like I just like missed an entire issue.
Yeah.
All right, what's up next? I'll tell you. Gunland #1 by Captain Artiglio. In a bizarre sci-fi Western world where folks ride dinosaurs instead of horses and magical skulls give powers to half-robot outlaws, a bumbling gang of bandits seek a stash hidden by a double-crossing partner. And the key to finding it might be the young girl they recently rescued, a girl with uncanny skills with a pair of revolvers. A gonzo adventure for teens and up. I didn't read it. What did you think, Len?
I started it. It reads kind of weird, and Brian, I think Brian or you know, mentioned how this book was originally in
Another language.
another
Just-
language.
I don't know which one.
So you know the translation I think doesn't necessarily sync up. So that explains that. The art is cool, but it's I guess the line weight of it made it hard for me to like
Good.
find the dimensions in the artwork. You know, to like pull the background from the foreground and stuff like that. It looked fun. The cover looked really like, oh, this looks like it's going to be a ball of fun. And now as I'm reading it, it sounds like it's cool,
Live streaming.
but it also read like something that, you know what? I think I would like this more if this was animated. And I just couldn't get myself. It was just a little bit too much.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I
Yeah,
couldn't rock with it.
because of and maybe it is because of the translation. Maybe it's a little too direct. There was really no rhythm to the book.
Yeah.
There's no rhythm in the dialogue from panel to panel. It was like they were telling you pieces of a story, and it wasn't intentional. It was like information missing in how people were talking to each other.
Right.
Like the whole joke about so it's three brothers all have this skull for some reason. The one brother is able to open it or use it. It opens up a dimension where he sees a young girl abandoned or orphaned. He takes the girl and starts to raise her on television and gunslinging, whatever. But that all happened before, and then you see these three brothers now. Okay. They're outlaws, or two of them are outlaws. They kill someone else and they're meeting together to talk. But the whole joke about like the girl shaves her head, so he keeps calling her a little boy.
Yeah.
And it's funny in how this one brother just disregards the other one constantly. But the way that it's written is just like it's just like a repeated joke over and over again without any real rhythm to let you know it's a joke. Yeah, it doesn't land it, but it's not. All of the pieces are there. They're just not put together in a very common way. Yeah, it's interesting. It's weird. Yeah.
Also, like what you get is a little like I got to the end of the book and I was like, wait, that was it.
Yeah.
You know, like they're not, and they almost seemed like the issues were out of order. You know, I'm sure they weren't, but it kind of seemed like that should be the first issue. The second one, I liked the art so much that I kind of found myself being like, all right, it's a light story that I, for some reason, don't know what's happening really yet, but it seems like I maybe should. But I was so taken with the art, which is kind of, some of you guys think, kind of like Mobius and Tintin, kind of like
Yeah,
together.
I can see that.
Or there's some other thing in the Tintin place that I can't quite think of. Annie, Little Orphan Annie with the eyes, or
There's a it's the world I don't really know or understand. Like some of like the way that they do noses and eyes, everyone's got a different kind of set. I don't know if that's intentional or some people have pupils, some people don't.
Yeah.
Some people have lights, some people don't. But
or just the girl that doesn't have pupils.
there's a scene where
Oh yeah,
like the one guy's got cat eyes.
yeah.
There's no visual rules so much as this is how it is.
Everybody is so distinct
Yeah.
that you don't know. And
I kinda
I
think
get
that's
that that's
the
part of
word.
the charm of
Yeah.
it, but it becomes like an information overload for me.
That's my favorite character.
He's cool.
The
That's
Stegosaurus
kind of-
with Gatling guns and a siren on his head. That's cool.
They also like in the character design, but also in like the world that they live in. It's all mishmash. You know what we would see as the mishmash anyway, with like tech and time periods and whatever. I really like the shot of his house in the second issue, where I think it's like right when he's brought the girl back.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, a whole page spread of his entire place. And he's got like a bucket full of swords and TV. And, it's that very kind of detailed thing.
For clarification, you keep saying second issue. This is all one issue. It's two chapters. It's two pieces. Yeah, I just don't want anybody to think if they're going to pick it up that there's multiple. It's just there's just one. It's an oversized that's got like 2 chapters in it.
Yeah. And then there's more, right? Like coming or on the way?
I don't know, man. This was like so I saw that like it's a pretty light. It was a pretty light week for the most part.
Yeah.
Both DC and Marvel only released some like 2 or 3 digital issues and some collected editions. It was almost like a skip week in making up for what the new release schedule is, like in ramping back up since Diamond came back and UCS or whatever the fuck. So there's like a splattering of books as opposed to like it was a struggle to find 7 books. And this was just something from Oni Press that I noticed, and I'm like, oh, we don't talk about Oni that much. Let's check it out. What is this? And I'd never heard of it. I don't know where it's going. I don't even know if it's been printed already somewhere else, which likely it was. So I'm not sure. It was just, it seemed interesting. The description seemed incredibly interesting, and the art style was evocative. So I was like, let's give this a shot. We don't try things enough.
Oh, I'm glad you did. I mean, I really I'd read the other ones. That was part of my issue. Was I was like, oh, I want to see what's happening with this. And I would read it pretty much, if nothing else, than just the art. Like this one panel with the beginning to book 2.
Mm-hmm.
This never works that well. There we go. Very cool. And, I'd just like to have a momentum to page through 40 or 50 pages of that kind of art. And the story can do it.
Yeah, it was a blind buy, just like, let's give this a shot.
Yeah.
So I didn't dislike it. It was just it kind of left me wanting more.
Yeah.
I would watch it.
That would be cool. I found out there's a Mobius animated movie that exists, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta see that." But yes, this would be it.
What's the name of it?
I will find it. It's not like he animated the whole thing, but it's.
He got a bit of it.
Well, then you're a liar. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, but I couldn't keep that within myself. I couldn't take it. I had to come clean.
I have a question. Should we move on without him here, or should we vamp?
A good question. Oh, it turns out this is not even what I was thinking about, but there's it looks like there's an Inkle animated work, which I that's a book that I've never read, but I always wanted to read. I always thought it looked cool. And there being an animated thing of that would be awesome. But yeah, there's something. I think there was a heavy metal. Well, there was a heavy metal animated thing. Which I guess
You never saw the heavy metal animated movie?
I never did. Maybe he just do like a
I think he may have done some character designs for that, and maybe even helped on some of the animation. It's a very up and down movie, because it's like the book is an anthology, but for its time, it was ahead of the game animation wise. And it's worth a revisit. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's great, but it's like, it's like it's the magazine now, probably light. It's got animated titties, so whatever.
Yeah.
But it was cool. It was cool.
Well,
A buddy of mine actually is now the managing director of editor of Heavy Metal.
Really? Oh, that's awesome.
Cool.
Joe Illidge, and they're going to be releasing their 300th 300th issue this August, and he tells me like, "Yo, watch, because that's like the first one that's really got his imprint on it."
Oh, all right.
I would be totally down to read that. I've never read any Heavy Metal.
Same. I mean,
cool.
I've dallied, but I've never really.
Yeah.
And I
So
like
it's the
that
same
show
thing.
that was on.
Yeah, it's the same thing with 2000 AD. I've never I've dabbled little pieces here, but I've never actually read 2000 AD.
Yeah. Well, let's do it.
All right.
You know what else we should do? Wrap it up with Star number 5, written by Kelly Thompson with art by Javier Pina with Felipe Andrade. The Black Order makes their move. The former generals of Thanos have come for the Reality Stone, but thanks to everything Star has been through, she's learned a lot about the power bonded to her. The Black Order expects to find a novice, but instead will find a dragon. And no matter who wins this fight, one thing is for sure. The Marvel Universe is about to be a much more dangerous place for everyone.
Is there a dragon?
What are they talking about, dragon?
I think that's supposed to be her new name going forward.
Ah.
That's the only connection I can make.
Huh.
Like, she chooses to be dragon afterwards because there's no literal dragon.
Oh, wait. Was she also... You remember, like, issues ago, she was in that cave. And so I did a catch-up thing with this also. So I guess I read the last 2 or 3, whatever we had. And they mentioned how they were fighting a dragon. And then it turned out that she was also the dragon that they were fighting.
Yeah, it was like issue 2 or 3 where Wanda absconded with her to like teach her how to use the stone or limit herself.
Yeah.
And there was a dragon in the cave and she fought it, but because it's the Reality Stone, she was essentially just making it.
Right. It's a weird metaphor though. Still.
Yeah.
It doesn't connect.
I thought this was great. I really enjoyed it. I did not anticipate enjoying this, but since the first issue where I was like, all right, I guess I'll fucking try it. Star number 1. I don't really care. Who cares? I actually found it to be really, really good. I like Kelly Thompson's writing. The more I read the Captain Marvel series, the more enamored I'm becoming with it. I thought the first story within the Captain Marvel book was a bit heavy-handed, and it's gotten better as it's gone. And it introduced this Star character. Noel, take it away.
Well, the Vox Supreme one was a really good arc too. Like, like it's been getting a lot better, and that's where she came from. But this mini was really rad. Like, it's essentially the whole time I really did think that they were going to try at least make her an anti-hero or redeem her in some way. But she constantly keeps making the wrong choice, and not even in like a playful way. In the, oh, you're a villain. Cool. Like, and the fact that she fully embraces it at the end, I actually thought was really fucking cool. Like, I liked it a lot. Because this whole story is from the perspective of Star, I didn't like Captain Marvel in here.
Yeah.
She's a giant buzzkill and she sucks.
Yeah.
But the speech at the end that she gives to Wanda about, it's hard for everyone. We've all got baggage. We all have triggers. We are all terrible in many ways, but an actual hero will choose to make the right choice despite that. And every single time Star was given one of these choices, she made the wrong one, no matter what. So start treating her as such, which I was like, you know what? That makes sense. Captain Marvel may be an asshole, but it's true. Like, we don't have, other than this being written in the perspective of Star, so we kind of feel for her. there's really no reason why we should give her the benefit of the doubt. Like every single time she's proven us wrong. So villain, which I thought was really cool.
Right. And you're trained to give her the benefit of the doubt because that's how these type of
Yeah.
stories almost always go. You know what I mean? So for it to land where it does, where she's embraced something, but it ain't what you thought. You know, it's like totally, it just comes out of left field. And you know, you rep for Kelly Thompson's art. Kelly Thompson's art is great.
Javier Pina.
The writing,
Yeah.
the writing, Kelly Thompson's writing, but the art by Javier Pina.
Yeah.
Whoo!
Yeah.
That's some good stuff, man. That's some good eating right there, man. I'm gonna let you know. That's some good. I mean, like I like every little bit. The acting that the characters are doing. The character design.
I don't know why. This is my favorite panel.
When she's holding it up.
I don't know why that's my favorite panel. It's just I saw that and I was like, that is so well done.
Yes.
It's a nothing moment, but it's.
Mm-hmm. But you can feel the weight on her hands. You can feel her the tenseness in her arms, and you can still see the acting in her eyes.
But then also look at the horror of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There is one. I showed JD the other night. There is one panel in this entire book that just made me feel weird.
Yeah.
Like it's just so awkward. Maybe it was in issue 4, but there's a panel of Carol kind of like grimacing and looking forward, and she literally looks like she's hulked out and her hair is receding. Like it is the weirdest angle.
That is a different artist, by the way.
Is?
Yeah.
Is it the flashback?
That's Jay Leisten or Leisten. I'm
Was
sorry,
that right?
Brian. What were you gonna say?
Oh.
Brian, you just said something. What did you say?
Oh, I said, that was a different guy, but that was made clear.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Issue
It's
4.
fun to be like uncomfortable and like flashbacks of 2 uncomfortable times. That was one thing I really liked about this was it reminded me in a way of Miracle Man by Tom King recently. That somebody, but not until this issue or this run that I read that
Mr. Miracle.
Yes, not Miracle Man, Mr. Miracle. Yeah, totally. In that, she is having a psychological issue, but it comes on much more subtly, and I liked that a lot. Where I really am like, Carol, Captain Marvel, stop! She's having a panic attack. This is if you don't push it, this could go a different way, And but I similarly was very disappointed in Widow Star at the end. I was like, oh no,
and that's just it. Like as much as Carol was a bit of the antagonist for this whole series because it's from Star, I do relate to her dialogue here. We're all damaged, we've all been hurt. That's an explanation, not an excuse.
Yep.
Abused people make the right choice every day. People who suffer unimaginable things are still good all the time. Ripley looked it in the face, that path toward being a hero, and every time she turned her back on it.
Loved it. So
perfect.
Good.
Absolutely perfect. Yeah.
She also, I don't think it was communicated. Maybe had it been more understood in story to Captain Marvel that Riley thought that she was trying to kill her. She had been killed by this person, and is justifiably very afraid of Captain Marvel, which I thought was a really interesting look at like how you can do things that are not so great, out of this fear. What was the other? I also didn't think the deal with the Black Order was so bad. But Scarlet Witch and Captain Marvel were like, that proves it. She's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like that didn't really seem like a bad guy thing to do. That was like, leave me alone and you can go and we won't fight anymore.
Just like with the Hawkeye stuff though, like if Star simply said, I can get them to go away. that's fine. But no, she turned her, like, she betrayed them, went on the other side of it,
Yeah.
cut a deal. Like, it doesn't matter what the outcome is so much as the actions that led to it. Like it still was shady and shitty. The only thing that's cool about this is that we have her perspective. Still wrong.
I'm not sure I blame her for betraying Captain Marvel, though. Like, she's like, this woman is going to kill me again as soon as we're done fighting the Black Order. Like, they're not on the same side, and she doesn't see Captain. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't think that one action was as bad as they made it out. Like, to them, it's like, well, why didn't she just come back? We would have been cool.
Well, it wasn't one. It was.
No, I'm saying I just think that one action wasn't that bad. Like, that particular action. What?
But hey, my only question is, am I supposed to know what she's blowing up at the end here?
I thought the same thing, and I think it's just supposed to be cool. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just cool that she's just.
I'm a bad guy. I explode buildings for no reason. Like, all right.
But that's what she's saying. Like, I can do what I want to do to whom I want to do it. She don't care.
I really wish there was I like the idea. I like the star on her costume. It's basically Black Widow with just some red piping. I wish there was a little bit more design put into this. Like, even if the star at the top was all red or something, or I don't even know, but they had a chance here to design a really cool costume, and I don't think it succeeds. Yes, I see the cat.
Look at this fucking guy.
all over the trades. Looking at the Wednesday comics. That was a good series.
Really
I wonder if they made it all red, though, if it would start looking like a Jester's. Like, I wonder.
That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to more. I like Kelly Thompson. This is great.
Yeah, I wonder, are there plans, or she's just like, now she's out in the Marvel universe and it's more dangerous than it's ever been before.
I hope so. I mean, I like the groundwork done to create this nemesis for Carol Danvers. Did we have one before?
Not really.
I'm aware of.
I don't think she had like a really like.
I think this is
nemesis.
awesome. And like, if you think about it too, like the work that Kelly Thompson's doing on building up this character, I mean, it's fucking cool. Like, all the Vox Supreme stuff. This, I would probably dip my toe back in this series. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's it. We did it.
Done.
All right, so as promised for Christopher St. Saucy Goodman in regards to Gutter Talk, after some deep, soulful contemplation with these three guys, as well as with Brandon and Optimus Douche. Did I get that right? The Optimus Douche, Rob Patey.
Rob Patey.
Okay, Rob Patey. Yes, he's Rob Patey. Yeah, I haven't earned to call him a douche anyway. So after deep contemplation, we have decided that starting next week, I believe, is the 700th episode of the Cult Pop Go podcast. So with
Just Cult
that,
Pop.
well, Cult Pop. With that, we will be amalgamating spoiler alert and Gutter Talk into one show that will live on ad infinitum on Black Tribbles until April of next year, and then it'll keep going on Cult Pop. So that's what's going to happen with Gutter Talk.
So we haven't figured out the exacts of it yet, but it's basically going to be, we're going to review a couple of books from the week, and then we're going to talk about some events, some any news, pop culture news. And that's it. It'll be like an extravaganza every week. So if there's anything, you know what? If you guys have any ideas for things to talk about, we are always susceptible to suggestion. Yes. So let us know if there's anything you're like that you'd like to hear us chat about on top of the weekly comic book reviews. So,
which could also be like, my first impression is like something that just came out, like a show or some news or whatever. But it could also be just like, if you have an interesting kind of geek sort of question for us, like, what would you think? Who would be the best doing this thing, or
Yeah.
what
How
if
do
you?
you organize your comics? Any sorts of
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love I know some of you guys do, some of you don't, like reading what's happening in the industry too. I love that shit. I love when a writer gets announced for a thing or is doing this or is doing that, or the industry does this or hires this person. I actually think that's really interesting. So I will probably try and bring some of that, and then you guys will shoot me down. It'll be fun.
nice.
nice. All right.
So yeah, join us next week, 10:30 a.m. on Sunday, just like you did today. We will do. I guess we're still going to call it spoiler alert. I don't even know. We'll figure it out.
We
But,
gotta come up with it. We gotta come up with a name. It can't just be spoiler. It's
Spoiler.
it has to have it all. It's got to. Make your suggestions. Let us know what should the spoiler alert gutter talk
There's-
amalgamation
Gutter alert.
be
There's a
titled?
brand equity issue. Like if the name is known, the name stays known, right?
That was my thought. If people
Yeah.
were still looking for the spoiler alert podcast, they'd be able to find it because it's
Maybe we'll
only
add
doing
more.
weekly reviews.
You know,
Yeah, but people know the gutter talk name too.
Yeah.
it's true.
Well, then you figure out
JD. People know gutter talk.
then you figure out which one has the most brand equity, and you kind of lean towards that as opposed to kind of
The spoiler
Throwing-
alert
throwing
gutter
up both of
talk
them.
show.
Spoiler gutter talk alert.
Yeah.
I said spoiled gutters, but nobody. I got shot down.
Hi, Lee
It
Jackson.
just sounds like poop in gutters.
So does gutter talk.
Everyone
I
say
mean-
hi to Brandon.
Hey, Brandon.
Hey,
Gloin the Hobbit says pop prostitution is the new name.
Point of purchase. What is?
Yep. Point of purchase prostitution.
Oh God. Okay.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, guys. We love you. Thanks for hanging out with us and chatting with us. We will see you now. Oh, he said Brandon Jackson Short says hi, friends.
Hi, Brandon.
We love you. We'll talk to you next week. Oh, also, we're going to be doing more Thunder rounds over the week.
Thunder
I think.
rounds.
Anytime I can wrangle these guys into doing more Thunder rounds,
Thunder rounds.
we're going to do them. So let us know if there's anything you want us to do. We love you. Oh, wait, hold on. Brandon just texted us. The podcast should be called Cult Pop Podcast since it's a mix of two cult pop shows and Black Tribbles is ending. We'll see how it goes. All right. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will talk at you later.